To be honest, I almost didn't post this, but what I saw didn't leave me in peace. I haven't slept properly for 2 weeks, and that's when he said something I can't ignore. If you remain silent, their blood will be on your hands. After that, he showed me something specific, a switch, and when that switch flips, there will be no warning. There won't be time. No one will understand what's happening. The shelves will be emptied immediately. Walmart, Costco, everything. In a matter of hours. It disappears, and what's the most dangerous, it's not a lack of food. It's the lack of preparedness of the people, because while some will remain calm, others will be desperate. He showed me exactly what you need to have at home right now. I'm not selling anything. This is a warning. One chance. Because once it starts, you won't have time to chase after it. If you think this is an exaggeration or don't believe it, do it now. Right below, I believe in Jesus. I want to see who's still paying attention, but pay attention to this. Don't write and exit the video. Stay until the end, because not in the end, you'll see if there's still time for you. And I'm serious, because when that starts, there will be no second chance. And I really hope so. Hopefully you already have this in your home. After I heard those words, I couldn't react right away. A weight stayed inside me that wouldn't go away. It wasn't just fear. It was something different. As if I had understood something that can't be forgotten. I stood there, trying to process it. But at the same time, I already knew it wouldn't leave me alone. And it didn't. From that moment on, my mind didn't stop for a second. I tried to follow my routine. I tried to distract myself. I tried to act as if it were just another thought. But it wasn't. It kept coming back. At bedtime, when I woke up, in the middle of the day. And the worst part is that it didn't come as a weak memory. It came strong, as if it were happening again. And that's when I understood that it wasn't just about me. There was a reason why I was seeing it. When he spoke to me, it wasn't like someone speaking normally. I didn't hear with my ears, but I understood everything clearly. It was direct, without beating around the bush. And when he said that if I remained silent, the blood would be on my hands, it froze me inside. I had never felt such a weight. It wasn't a suggestion. It wasn't an opinion. It was a responsibility. At that moment, I understood that I couldn't simply ignore it and move on with my life. I wanted to ignore it. To be honest, I wanted to pretend I hadn't seen anything, but I couldn't. It stayed inside me in a way that wouldn't go away, and the more I tried to avoid it, the stronger it became. I knew that at some point I would have to open my mouth and speak, and that's when he showed me that. A light switch. Simple as that. Nothing complex, nothing difficult to understand. A light switch like any other. But what came next? It wasn't normal. I remembered the feeling of looking at it and already knowing it wasn't a metaphor. It wasn't symbolic. It was something real. It was as if it represented a specific moment, a point where everything changes at once. And the strangest thing is that it didn't seem distant. It didn't seem like something that would happen years from now. It seemed close, too close. And that's what unsettled me the most, because there was no warning, no preparation, no time to think. The first thing I saw after that was the supermarkets. Everything was functioning normally. People walking through the aisles, full shopping carts, people choosing products, swiping their cards. I saw families shopping as they always do, Children asking for things, people comparing prices, lines at the checkout. Nothing out of the ordinary. And that's what struck me the most, because it looked exactly like it does today. There was no sign of trouble. There was no desperation, no rush. It was just another normal day. And that's where the danger lies. Because when everything seems normal, nobody prepares for anything. Nobody thinks that it could all end in an instant. But at the same time, as I looked at it, I could see beyond it. I can't explain it properly, but it was as if I were seeing the structure behind it, and it wasn't as strong as it seemed. It was fragile. It depended on many things working simultaneously. Trucks arriving, systems running, deliveries happening, stock being replenished, everything connected. And when one part stops, the rest can't hold up. And that's exactly what happened. There was no warning, no gradual change. It happened all at once. One moment everything was normal. The next, it simply stopped. I saw the trucks stopped. I saw the deliveries not happening. And in a short time, the shelves began to empty. Fast. Very fast. Faster than anyone could react. And at first, people didn't even understand properly. They just thought it was a delay, that it would normalize. But it didn't normalize. And then it started to sink in. But it was too late. Because when everyone realizes it at the same time, there's nothing left for anyone. And that's when I understood something that stuck with me. The problem isn't just the shortage. The problem is that nobody is prepared for when it happens. At first, it wasn't the chaos people imagined. There was no shouting, no rushing. It was quieter. That's what struck me. People would arrive at the supermarket, grab their carts, walk through the aisles, and start to realize something was wrong. An item was missing here, another there. Shelves were half empty. Nothing completely absurd yet, just strange. And most people were still calm, thinking it was a delivery problem, a delay, something temporary. I could see on their faces that nobody was really worried. It was as if everyone was waiting for someone to explain what was happening. But then the worst part began. People started leaving with less than they had planned, and they would come back the next day, and the next, and each day there was less. It was gradual, but fast at the same time. In a matter of days, what had seemed like just a delay became a real problem. And then the atmosphere changed. It wasn't normal anymore. People started walking faster through the aisles, grabbing what I still had, without thinking much, without comparing prices, just grabbing. And that's when something I didn't expect to see so soon started to appear. People's behavior has changed. People who seemed calm started acting differently, more withdrawn, more tense. I saw people hiding products at the bottom of their shopping carts. I saw people looking around before picking something up, as if they were afraid someone would take it from them. It was a type of anxiety that grew rapidly. And the most impressive thing is that it wasn't all gone yet. There was still stuff on the shelves, but the feeling was already one of scarcity. And when that feeling sets in, everything changes. I saw a scene that's etched in my mind. A woman arrived at the milk aisle. There was only one left. She went to get it. Normal, like anyone would do. But before she could touch it, a man stepped in front of her and snatched it from her hand without saying a word. He just grabbed it and left. And her look, I'll never forget it. It wasn't just anger. It was despair. It was as if she understood in that moment that the rules had changed, that it wasn't about politeness or respect anymore. It was about who gets there first. And that's when I understood some serious. When necessity really bites the nail on the head. People change. Not everyone, but many people change. Education disappears. Calmness disappears. Respect disappears. And it's not because people are bad. It's because the body goes into survival mode. And when that happens, the mind follows. I saw parents looking at their children, not knowing what to do. I saw people with money in their hands, working cards, and still unable to buy anything because they simply had nothing left to take. And the hardest thing to see wasn't even the lack of food. It was the feeling of powerlessness. People used to solving everything with money, realizing that it didn't solve anything anymore. I saw people standing in the middle of the market, looking at the empty shelves without reacting, as if their brains couldn't process it, because nobody was prepared for this. Nobody was taught how to deal with this kind of situation. And when it happens, it freezes. And in the midst of all that, I tried to react. I wanted to help. I wanted to do something, but I couldn't. It was like I was just watching, and that destroyed me inside, because I clearly saw that when it gets to that point, there's nothing more you can do at that moment. Everything that could have been done should have been done sooner. And that's when it started to become clear to me why I was seeing all of that. It was at that moment that everything truly changed for me. Until then, I had been seeing, understanding, observing, but after that, I started to feel. It wasn't something light. It wasn't just an impression. It was physical. It came all at once. A tightness in my stomach that didn't feel like ordinary hunger. It was deeper. As if it were empty in a way that's impossible to explain. And, along with that, a thirst that truly bothered me. My throat went dry. But it wasn't that normal thirst you can quench with a glass of water. It was stronger, more urgent. And the worst part was realizing that it wasn't just me. It was as if I were feeling what several people were feeling at the same time. I wasn't just observing the situation from the outside anymore. I was inside it, feeling it along with them. And that was heavy, because it wasn't just discomfort. It was despair starting to grow. I felt the weight of someone opening the refrigerator and finding nothing. I felt the tension of someone trying to share the little they had, knowing it wouldn't be enough for everyone. And that started to weigh on me in a way that really affected me. There was a moment when it became even stronger. I felt like my body was weak, without energy, as if any movement required effort. And at the same time, my mind wouldn't stop, thinking, trying to find a solution, trying to solve it. But there was no quick solution. And that's what gets you the most. Because we grow up believing that there's always a way to solve things. That there's always a way. But there wasn't. And that feeling of not being in control, that's what really knocks you down. Thirst was what struck me the most. My mouth was so dry it bothered me the whole time. I tried to swallow, but couldn't properly. It was like something basic was missing. And then I saw people going to the tap, and nothing coming out, or very little. And that made me understand something that many people don't think about. Without water, there's no time. It's not a matter of days. It's fast. Much faster than people imagine. And in the midst of all this, what affected me the most was seeing families going through this together. It wasn't just one person alone. It was fathers, mothers, children, people who always had the basics, suddenly with nothing. I saw people trying to stay calm in front of their children, trying not to show concern, but you could see in their eyes that they were lost. And that weighs heavily, because it's not just about you, it's about those who depend on you. And that's when I understood very clearly. When it gets to that point, it's too late to prepare. There's no more chasing after it. There's no more. I'll deal with that later. Everything that could have been done should have been done before. And that's the part that stayed with me the most. It wasn't just what I saw. It was what I felt. Because it didn't seem distant. It seemed close. It could happen at any moment. After all that, I couldn't just watch anymore. It was too much. I wanted to understand. I needed to understand. And that's when I asked. I didn't say it out loud, but inside I asked, why is the Lord showing me this? Because it didn't seem like just any warning. There was a reason behind it. And when the answer came, it was direct. Without beating around the bush, he made me understand that the problem doesn't start when everything ends. The problem starts much earlier, when nobody is paying attention. That's when it became clear to me that it doesn't start with chaos. It doesn't start with news. It doesn't start with warnings. It starts with normality, with everything functioning, with people living life as they always have. Buying, spending, planning, believing that tomorrow will be the same as today. And that's exactly where nobody prepares. Because nobody thinks they need to. And when the need arises, it's too late. He reminded me of something many people have heard, but few truly understand. The story of Joseph. That moment when there was plenty. And then came scarcity. But the point wasn't just the scarcity. The point was what was done before it arrived. Because while everyone else was living well, Joseph was storing up. While everyone else was enjoying themselves, he was preparing. And that's what made the difference in the end. And at that moment, I understood something that shocked me. The problem isn't just the lack of food. The problem is that when scarcity arrives, what you had no longer solves the problem in the way you imagined. It's no use having money if you don't have anything to buy. It's no use having resources if the system doesn't work. And that changes everything. Because most people rely precisely on that. They rely on the fact that they will always have access, that they will always have replenishment, that there will always be a solution. But when that stops, it stops for everyone. And that's when it became very clear to me why I was seeing all of that. It wasn't meant to scare me. It was meant to wake me up. It was meant to show that there's still time before that moment arrives. Because when it arrives, it's no longer about choice. It's no longer about deciding. It's already happening. And then, only those who prepared beforehand get through it better. And the last thing that really stuck with me at that moment was this. Preparing isn't a lack of faith. On the contrary, it's responsibility. It's care. It's protecting those close to you. Because when someone knocks on your door asking for help, you can only help if you have something to offer. And that completely changed how I saw everything. It wasn't just about surviving. It was about being ready beforehand. After that, he didn't give me a long speech. It wasn't complicated. It was direct, clear, like someone who knows exactly what he's doing. He took me inside a market, but it wasn't like before. The shelves were empty. The lights weren't working properly. There were people walking around, not knowing what to do. And there, in the middle of that place, he started showing me specific things. They weren't random products. They were simple things. basic things. Things that anyone can buy today. But that, at that moment, were no longer available. The first thing he showed me was rice. White rice. And that was very clear. It wasn't just any kind. It was white rice because it lasts. If stored properly, it lasts a long time. And in times of need, it sustains. It's not fancy food. It's not expensive food. But it gets the job done. And that was something I understood right away. In that scenario, nobody is worried about variety. They're worried about not going hungry. And rice fits perfectly into that. After that, he showed me beans. Dried, simple, a source of protein, cheap, easy to store. And that can sustain a family for a long time. And along with that, pasta, things that last, that fill you up, that give you energy. It wasn't about luxury. It was about the basics. About what keeps the body functioning when everything else fails. And that was something that stuck very strongly with me. The simple things are what save you, but then came something that many people ignore. Water. And when he showed me that, it was different. Because the feeling of thirst I had felt before returned instantly. Stronger, more real. And then it became clear. Without water, none of this matters. You can have food, but without water, you won't get far. And that's when I understood the priority. Water filters, ways to store it, any way to guarantee access. Because when the system stops, the water stops too. After that, he showed me things that seem small, but that make all the difference. A manual can opener. Because without electricity, it's no use having sealed food. Something simple, but essential. He also showed me ways to cook without depending on electricity. Something basic. Something that works without electricity. And that made me realize how much we depend on things that seem guaranteed until the day they're no longer there. And lastly, he showed me something that goes beyond food and water. He showed me people, families together, close neighbors, people who know each other, who trust each other. And that really struck me. Because nobody goes through something like this alone. It won't work. Whoever tries to do everything alone will have much more difficulty. But whoever is connected with other people has a better chance of getting through it. And that's when everything clicked for me. It wasn't just a list of things. It was a complete warning. It starts with the basics. It starts simple, but it starts now. Because the mistake I saw in that whole scenario was always the same. Everyone put it off. And when they realized it, there was no later. If you've heard all of this up to this point, then you already understand. This isn't about fear. It's about being ready beforehand. Because when everything seems too normal, that's exactly when nobody will do anything. And that's where everything can change. I've already done my part. I said what I saw. Now, the decision is no longer mine. It's with you. You can ignore it. Or you can start today. You don't need to do everything at once. Start with the basics. One step, then another one. But don't put it off until later. Because the mistake I saw was always the same. Everyone thought there was still time. If this message resonated with you, share it with someone in your family. Someone you truly care about. You don't need to send everyone. only for those you want to protect. And before leaving, leave it below: Jesus is my provider. It's not for me. This is for you to remember who you trust when all else fails. He takes care of himself, and it starts today.